Hello, hello, hello. Leadership it's one of the most speaked things, and sometimes it is not that understood. I think there are some misconceptions about leadership. So, if you want to know everything that's important about leadership, stay tuned because I will be back soon with my amazing guest, Tony Alexander. Stay tuned. Hello, hello, hello. Marco Novo here, and I'm very happy today to bring a special guest. I met Tony a few months ago, and it was kind of connection at first sight. He's an amazing guy, very energized. I don't know if it's the right word. It's very friendly, very nice, and I think I invited him after speaking with him 30 seconds or something. So it's amazing. So if you are there watching, and please, you can share where you are. I'm gonna bring Tony. He's on the basement with with the glass of water and the cookie because my budget on vacations went away. I don't have more than this. So let's bring Tony. Hello, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well, Marco. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah,
It,
you have to
it's
represent, right?
it's nice to have a shirt with a logo.
Mhm. There you go. I see.
So,
Absolutely.
so if you are watching us, please, and now, and you have some questions, please let us know. Join the conversation because it's also what it's all about. This engagement with the conversation. If you are watching the replay, please hashtag replay and put the question. And if you want to make this question to Tony, please tag Tony so you can come and answer you. Okay? So
Absolutely.
please be our guest and put your questions. Okay? And if you know someone who may be interested in this conversation, you can tag him or her on the comments so he can join us also. Okay? Tony, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here. And I will ask you please to introduce yourself and then we can go to the conversation. Okay?
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Tony Alexander. I am the COO of Structure GI Services, which is SGI. Actually built on the name of being in the military, which a GI is actually a soldier. But after evolving into corporate America with the company, I made the GI in intentional services. I spent 10 years in the military, 15 years in corporate America. And with that, I'm just a pretty much humble guy. I love community services, helping out in their community, and I sit on quite an array of nonprofit boards. So I always tell people I'm just your ordinary guy. I have a 20-year-old son that is in Morehouse College, and very proud of him. And I just like my downtime and love to read. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
Perfect, perfect. We talked about this off, so I think it's important to start with this because you mentioned that you were a military or you are. I don't know. How do you want to be known and recognized? If you were of if you are.
Yeah, so I'm a veteran. So I did 10 years. So military strong is what I tell people. So definitely.
It's a great school of leadership, right?
It absolutely is. It taught me discipline, structure, and just to be honest, things that I truly didn't have early on in life. And for me, it gave me a sense of direction and being able to take those skills that I learned through the military, actually made me the leader that I am today. And it's hard, honestly, to say, hey, you're a leader, because anyone can say that. But when you know that you've embodied in the things that you've been able to endure, you can turn your hand around, pat yourself on the back, and say, "Hey, I'm a leader." So I wouldn't have traded those 10 years for the world.
Absolutely. It's good to this about leadership, because some people say, I think it's one of the biggest myths, if not the biggest, that you are born a leader, and you can build that leadership or train that leadership while you're growing and you're living. Is that true?
Well, I think we're all born with certain gifts. I wouldn't say leadership is one of them that we're born with, because leadership is something that can be learned and not taught. And there's a difference between learning and being taught. So you learn leadership through the people in whom you're surrounded with. So if you're surrounded with people that are true leaders, then it is possible for you to evolve into a leader. But to go into a classroom and technically try to push a book, let's say, and say, this is leadership, and by the time you finish reading this book, you're going to be a leader, then you're going to find yourself in for a rude awakening, because leadership is just not about having a title. There's different characteristics and aspects of it. So it's about the personality. It's about your integrity. It's about so many things beyond just the title that I'm a leader. So yeah, I mean, we're all birthed, right? But we all take different paths to get to that goal. So if you're not surrounded by leaders, then you becoming a leader might not be in your future. But also remember, everyone isn't meant to be a leader, and you can't take that personal. So sometimes you have to lead, sometimes you have to follow, and then other times you just have to get out of the way of the leaders and followers. So I don't believe that leaders are born. Leaders are made through adversity and the things that they do, and how they become servants to the people in which they serve.
Absolutely. Well, we have some people saying hello. Hello, Ty. I think it's Ty, the right way to spell it, right?
Yeah, that is Ty.
Okay. Welcome, Ty. Hola, Gustavo. ¿Qué tal? Hello, Gustavo. Nice to have you here. So Ty says, okay, that military experience is very beneficial in growth. Another thing, Tony, people, and there, I think it's a kind of cause effect. People say that leadership is related to a position, and because of this, if you're not on a role of leadership, you don't have to know about leadership.
Okay, let's debunk that myth again, right? Okay, so I can just tell you, in my 15 plus years, I've had people in leadership positions that never should have been in leadership positions, because one, they didn't know how to lead. And I think where we get confused is the difference between being a boss, being a leader, and being a manager. So when you manage processes. When you lead people. So people are often given the title as leaders. And if we look at where society has gone into, let's say, in different retail sectors or those particular areas, they've actually kind of psychologically changed things around. So where their job titles will say store team lead, right? So it's to help that person believe that, okay, I'm a leader, or, whether it's shift team leader or shift lead, right? So it's psychological. So they automatically think that they're a leader. And unfortunately, what happens is they don't have the characteristics or the attributes of a true leader. And we end up as a society setting them up for failure. Again, I'll say, having worked in previous companies, there were people in leadership positions that never should have been there, right? There were no soft skills. There wasn't any ability to be able to connect and relate to people. There was no emotional intelligence. It was all about the numbers. So, you find yourself surrounded by these people, it's easy to become demotivated or discouraged. But if there is a leader within you, which is what I call myself, or kind of my tagline for my business, if there's a leader in you, you're going to notice those particular characteristics, and you're going to seek out a leader that is willing to help you grow along your journey and be intentional about it. But what the biggest thing that you can do is take those characteristics from the person that is the leader, and ensure that when you continue your journey, that you don't take those characteristics and project them on to other people. So just sitting in the corner office does not make you a leader. Title does not make you a leader. I've been on teams, or been with my teams, who people would be in the middle of the hierarchy on the organizational chart, and they were some of the strongest leaders in my organization. It's just unfortunate when you have gatekeepers in these large corporations or organizations, then they become threatened by the fact that this person or this person can do a better job, and they're not realizing that this person is a leader, right? Because a leader knows when they have to manage. A manager does not know when they need to lead, because they've never led. So, debunking that myth.
Absolutely. Well, we have more comments coming through. Ty says, absolutely, you may have leadership traits, but you must be developed. And we have Harper here. Hello, Harper. Total agree. Leadership is a learned skill, not a natural skill. Okay, perfect. And Ty, you can be a coercive leader. That type of leader is demotivating. And there's this thing also, and I think it's very important in the military world, mostly in this military world, because it's not just about the leader, it's about the people who are lead. Because, for instance, if you don't understand as a lead, it's those who respond to a leader, which is the name they have.
So, in terms of being the responsible leader or the followers, so you're going to
The
have your
followers, right?
followers, right?
On military field, as a follower first, you have to understand the role of a leader and respect him, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's this situation which is important on leadership on military world, and I think this is missing in corporate world, which is, for instance, you go to war, you're the leader, but it may happen you got killed. Okay, so someone from the following should step up and be the leader. So, two things: you should be trained to respect, and should be trained to take leadership at any time.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the best leaders develop other leaders, and that's the important part to know. If you are, and I love doing air quotes, if you are a leader and you're not developing the person to take your place, then you're not a leader, because leaders are confident in who they are, and they develop other leaders and surround themselves around you. So one of the things I used to always tell my teams, based on initiative and being a leader, I truly respect the person that would tell me, or give me a call at home and say, hey, the store burned down and we called the fire department. Okay, I really appreciate that. Everybody is safe. But the person that I really want on my team, that I feel that I've developed, is the person that said, hey, the building burned down, everyone got out safe. I called the fire department, I called the insurance department, and we start at the new location tomorrow at this time. I've done my job. That's a leader, because they take initiative and they get things done.
Absolutely. And okay, we have this comment from Ty. Let me bring. Oh, okay. Sorry, sorry. Yes, you are so right, Tony Alexander. They land leadership roles based on previous roles and opportunities. This can give poor leaders and delusional grandeur of their true ability.
Absolutely right. You give them that title, and they people will run with it, and that's the unfortunate part. And the people that actually suffer are the followers, because then they're stuck into this bubble or this hole, and they begin to think that this is the proper way to get the results. And you have to be a servant leader. You being in a leadership position means that you are there to serve. You are there to serve your followers. So whatever they need, that's your job as a leader. You're to coach, develop them, grow them, help them reach their aspirations, their goals. And one of the things I always tell my teams, or would tell my teams, I want you to be successful no matter where you go. And in one of my previous careers, I would have regional vice presidents or people looking at me like, are you trying to get people to leave the company? And it's like, no, I just want them to be happy and be the best no matter where they are. And when they do that, and when you do that, they're going to move the world for you because you are a leader. When you're in your dark places or things that happen, they're going to step up because they're able to know and connect with you on an emotional level. Right now, the way things are going in the world and just in general, that if you are not a leader, then you're suffering right now because you don't have the commitment and dedication from the teams in which you should have developed and being able to lead. So right now, the leader and air quotes are just as confused as the followers. So again, it's your job as a leader is to serve the people that you follow and help them get to where they need to go. And of course, in business, not forget, hey, we're working towards a common goal. So there can't be any hidden agendas or motives when doing this.
Absolutely. Well, we have Tai saying, yes, you are so right, Tony. They land leadership roles based on previous. Okay, I think I already wrote this next one. Absolutely, the employees are stakeholders. Investing in your stakeholders drives results. This leads me to a quote from Gary Vee, which says, some leaders want to make others to make them shine. And the true leaders work for the others, to the followers, to shine.
I would agree. My thing is, I get a sense of enjoyment when my teams or even my mentees reach different levels. It's like it's fulfilling to see or watch them grow, right? So at the end of the day, I don't need my name on a certificate. I don't need my name on a Golden Globe that I'll never get. But I want to be able to say, hey, look what you accomplished. And when I say you, I'm talking to that employee or that mentee. Look what you did. It's not about what I did. My job is here to, again, to serve you. Because at the end of the day, you're the person, one, let's say it's retail, closest to the customer, right? If you're trying to build a business, I don't want to be able to say, hey, you did all the work, right? I want you to be able to say, look what I did. You got some guidance from me along the way, but at the end of the day, you did this. And then you know that you can take those skills that were developed during this process and this relationship and then pass it on to the next person. And that's what I mean about when I say leaders develop leaders. There's times in there you're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna have disagreements. That's the storming, the performing, the norming, all of those stages. It happens, and there's no time frame on those. But if you are committed to the cause, you're gonna stay there and you're gonna stick it out. As a leader, we see things in people that they don't see in themselves, and so it's up to us to hold on to that vision for them until they can see it. And once we give them the tools and provide them the service, then it's up to them to grab it and use those tools to become the best that they can be and become more leaders to other people. Because as we know right now in society, across this country, we need more leaders. We need more heroes. And we don't need any more celebrities. We don't need any more ABC. We need leaders, people that are willing to step up, stand in front of the crowd, and tell it like it is, and then develop more people.
Absolutely. Very, very good. We have another comment. I don't know if I will say this your name the right way. Kevi Hunt. Is it right?
Uh,
Mitchell?
Kiviante, Kiviante.
Kivionte. Okay. It's a kind of French spelling. Do you think an organization could harm a great leader to become just a manager? Nice question. How do you stop it? Nice question. Thank you, Kivionte.
Absolutely yes. And what that does, what happens when they do that, that becomes, I call it number pushing, right? It's all about the numbers, right? So they can push you to manage processes when you want to lead people. And the best way to combat that in a professional manner would be to slowly show your interest in the HR side, which is, of course, the people side, because the people are the ones that drive the business. So there's nothing better than a person having business savvy and then moving into the HR role. And that's why it's called an HR business partner. Years ago, it was just called HR. But what happened was it was realized that without HR, we can't do anything, right? Because we need people. And one of the things, me being in HR in the past, I would always hear HR is the only department that comes to the table with their hands out with nothing to offer. And my combat is, well, we gave you 200,000 employees, so I'm not sure how that's nothing to offer. But having that business sense and then knowing how to lead people from an HR perspective is, I'm not going to say every, but is most organizations' dream employee. But you have to be able to sell that to that employer, because what we are finding is a lot of people are still stuck in the old days of thinking HR is just the people that you go to when you have a complaint. They don't think about the payroll. They don't think about the human capital. They don't think about the return on investment around retention and succession planning. So that my way to combat it is to start having those types of conversations and dialogue with your immediate supervisor. Ask for a shadow day with someone in your HR department to see what they do, just to let them know, hey, I'm interested in my own self-development. But don't allow them to pigeonhole you into a management process to where, again, you're dealing with the numbers and those things all day. Now, if that's something that you wanted to do, hey, well, that's fine. But it's your responsibility to have your voice heard, and that way that they can see you in a different light, because they might not know that, hey, you want to do more, or they might know, but they don't know just what you're capable of doing in different realms. So begin having HR conversations with them. Go to reading a couple books and throwing out some terms in there to flabbergast them, right? But just educate yourself up before you have those conversations, so that they know that you've truly started to invest in yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we have another more questions. Ty says, that's true, Marco. I worked for a leader that took credit for my work. So, as an employee, I didn't mind so much because you want to make your boss look great. However, that loyalty should be rewarded with opportunities. Absolutely right. And Kivionti says, how do you hire a leader to push the stakeholders, employees, and avoid hiring only just managers? Nice question.
Nice. Okay. So I'm gonna start just with the comment with Ty. I've been there before too, right? Because if you have a good leader You definitely want to make them look good. But also, even if you have a bad leader, just because they're a bad leader, you know your name is signed on to something. You still want it to shine, right? So they're going to take the credit, and I've been there numerous of times. I've had plans that I've rolled out to the entire organization, and not that I was looking for a thank you, but please give me some credit for something that just changed the lives of a Fortune 500 company, right? So, but that's when I knew where my strengths were. As far as Kiviante, I would say the way to to push your leaders to or the stakeholders to avoid only hiring just managers, again, is getting with that HR department and finding out where are these people being sourced from. And the best way to do that is going to be is it behavioral interviewing? Are we using third party companies to hire these people? Or possibly is there bias in the interview process? Because unfortunately, if you have a bad leader, bad leaders will hire in their image. So they want someone that looks just like them, that talks just like them, that thinks just like them. And what that does is it erodes the culture of what's happening, and opportunities never present themselves. So the way to do that successfully is, one, research what your organization's hiring practices are. And if you see that there are any biases in there, then you want to find out, okay, how can you implement something? Do you have a DNI or diversity inclusion leader, or a chief field communications officer, or someone who is willing to have a conversation with you? The other thing I would say is then begin to associate and network yourself with those people in your company, like the HR person. Let them know who you are. Let them know your name. One of the things I used to do as I began my career was, I would research who these people were, and I kept a large desk calendar and my phone reminder. And I would always send them just a hello, how are you doing? Email, I work at X, Y, and Z. And they would respond back, and I would always make sure, whether it was a holiday, the case may be, I checked in with them once a month. And when something came up, then what would happen is opportunities would begin to come my way, because they knew what my passion was. They knew that I was consistent in what I did. And now they became advocates and sponsors for me, because it's going to be difficult to get those type of sponsors for you at the local level, to be honest. And the reason for that is, normally, is because you're doing such a fantastic job in the position that you hold. Unfortunately, organizations will hold you in that position because you are making them look good, and it's not thinking about your overall personal development and growth. So sometimes you just gotta take it into your, I'm not going to say sometimes, you should always take it into your own hands and bring it and make it manifest into what you want your career to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes we forget something that it's truly important. It's the self leadership. Because sometimes we think about leadership, you in front of 1,000 people and saying, let's go, let's conquer the world. And then you forget about yourself. For
Yeah.
instance, you don't like the place where you work, but you're still there. You don't try to make things different, and you don't search new opportunities or new places to work, and you don't take and one thing it's important, and you mentioned it before: discipline. Explore this discipline thing on leadership, Tony, because I think it's so important.
Nothing is possible without discipline, and I'm just going to tell a quick story just to this, because it deals with where we are right now with COVID. And we keep hearing, well, COVID stopped us with A, B, C, and D. And the truth of the matter is, COVID did slow us down, but COVID gave us the opportunity to pivot. This was our opportunity, as you were saying, if we didn't like the job or if we were looking for other opportunities, this was the chance to get that resume updated. What credentials do I need for the next job that I need to get? And I know a group of phenomenal people that I watched over the last 3 months just form, and it just made me happy that they took their personal growth into their own hands and took these different certifications, and on LinkedIn you saw they all passed. So that was discipline, because just because I can't go to the office today doesn't mean there's nothing that I can't do. Discipline means getting up in the morning even when you don't feel like it, getting dressed even though you don't feel like it. Discipline creates results. So if you're not disciplined enough and you're living off impulse, you're going to be impulsive your whole life. And then the thing with that in the business world, not even just in the business world, but in your personal life, there's not going to be any structure, and there's going to always be room for disruption. So with that, you don't get a clear definition of what it is that you want to do, and then you find yourself bouncing around from thing to thing, and the next thing you know, it's 30 years later and you're looking like, what happened to my life? What did I accomplish? And I don't want to say, hey, I can't say that's what I'm going to say, but I know that has to be a horrible feeling, to feel like, you've been on this planet 30, 40 plus years and your accomplishment was a car. Okay. So, and so
And
it's,
a big TV set.
and a big detail. Yeah. So you have to have, and you have to have more confidence in yourself for the self discipline. So saying, you got to speak it into existence. And I say this all the time: speak victory over your life. And sometimes I'm guilty of it myself. I'm not perfect. I have my days, but if you are surrounded by other leaders, like we just said with the discipline, when you're having those days, you reach out to these people. And sometimes, if you're so closely connected, you don't even have to reach out. Guess what? They're going to see something that is off kilter or that is out of character for you, and they're going to reach out to you to make sure that you're back on the straight and narrow and that you're focused. But without discipline, there are no results. And the results that you get without discipline are never really good, to be honest, because you're just all across the place. So for me, with discipline, it's getting up the same time every morning. It's doing laundry the same time every week. It's almost robotic, and I'll break it up every now and then, but you have to push yourself. And I credit that to the military. It taught me I needed to be up 4 a.m. every morning. I needed to be able to run a 2 and 3 mile. I needed to be able to hike up what we call Heartbreak Hill in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And it gives you the grit that you wouldn't normally get from everyday life. So without discipline, there is no success. That's just the truth, Marco.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think Ty, it's 100% agreeing with you. And we have another question from Kivyanti. Let me read it. Do you believe in hiring within an organization to find leaders, or is it better to hire outside the organization to get more leadership in the company? Again, nice question. Thank you.
I would say that's actually that's a mixture of both, honestly. And the reason for that is because I'm really big on diversity and inclusion. And so with hiring from within the company, it just depends on what your D&I looks like. And I don't want everyone to think when we talk about diversity and inclusion that we're just talking about, race, creed, or color. We're talking about the diversity of thought. We're talking about just how you bring different ideas to the table. And so if a culture is so set in a way that you're unhappy as an employee, and the chances are, if you're unhappy, there are many more that are unhappy. But the thing of it is that um, a particular open door policy hadn't been implemented into where you can create that open space and honesty to be able to go to your supervisor and say, "Hey, I'm not happy here." So hiring from within the organization, yes, it's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. So you also have to think about, when we talk about the diversity inclusion, what about the Disabilities Acts, right? What about how are we being able to relate with them? And a lot of companies, they forget that. So then they go out, and what happens is they don't make the mission of what they're trying to do transparent to their current employees. So what happens is when you get the external hires, you create internal conflict. But yeah, you should have a mixture of both internal and external to bring in the conflict, or to reduce the conflict, but also to boost sales, right? To boost morale. And it's proven that companies with great diversity indexes outperform other companies about 85% of the time. So it's just a matter of what your culture looks like. Now, if you have a company that is constantly promoting from within, again, it's just going to depend on what that company is and what's been happening. And you have to look at the history of the company. So if the history of the company is pretty much all we do is internal hires, then you need to look at who are those internal hires, and what are they doing? Is it nepotism that's happening? So is it uncle's cousin, sister's friend, right? And you have a problem there.
Godson, a godson.
Yeah, godson, right? So it's not that we're hiring internal; we're hiring our best friends, right? And we know how that goes. That really degrades morale. And then me as an internal, how do I expect to be able to grow or to be able to develop? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go, right? I'm going to leave, and they have no idea why you're leaving. But it's clear to them and right in front of their face. So hope I kind of answered that question for you.
Absolutely. Let me bring more comments. Hello, Gospel. Nice to have you here. Welcome. And Ty has another comment. I worked in an industry that exhausted the emotional with no return. It was a transaction. I'm taking responsibility of my personal and professional development. I encourage all of my clients to lead with your own strengths. Never place your career or success in others' hands.
Absolutely. You never put your future in someone else's hands. And that's critical that you do that. You take ownership for your future and your development. And if your company is not giving you what you need, then you're right. Then you need to leave, right? But make sure that you have set yourself up professionally and successfully before you leave, right? And that's their loss, right? So, as the comment was saying that, hey, I took my development and now I have clients, that tells me that you've reached a level of success. You saw that you were emotionally exhausted at a company that didn't value you. And there's no reason in staying at a corporation that doesn't value what you have. Find one that will value what you have and go from there. So
Absolutely. Well, Kivionti has a question who it resonates with me. It's about me.
uh,
If I was a 22 years old male or woman trying to get into corporate America, what steps should I take to get the skills of being a leader?
okay. So I would say, with that again, is then you would have to identify there's three different people that you need in your life when trying to navigate through corporate America. So there's mentors, there's four. There's mentors, there's coaches, there's advocates, and there's sponsors. And they all come at different levels. Now, if you're lucky, you'll get all four in one person. So that means they have some pull, they have some power, right? But the thing about that is you want to make sure getting there that you're getting there on your own merits, that you're not getting there based on this person is my mentor, so this is how I got this position or how I got X, Y, and Z. But I'm just going to throw a plug out there, and it's not shameless, but getting there is LinkedIn, right? Is one of the best places to begin creating that space for yourself and connecting yourself with the right people in the industry that you're trying to go. Because you have to remember, you personally, you are a brand. So just like my name on my shirt, I'm a brand. I have to represent that brand of who I am. And then you have to sell your brand to the world. And once the world recognizes who you are, then it becomes easy. So you want to be able to walk into a room and not even have to introduce yourself, and everyone knows who you are, right? So there's multiple steps that you can take, and let's say being at 22, you're in a perfect way to start it. One, you're right here on this live stream. So this is something that truly interested you in leadership and development. So you have to continue to do things in this realm to get you there. There's people in the comments that probably have the same questions. What would you do? You would get with these people and say, hey, I would love to connect. We were on this particular webinar or live stream together. I love what you had to say. Do you mind if we communicate or collaborate on some things? And that's how you begin to build that network. And not just only that network, that safety net. And I can personally tell you, I saw this happen just a few months ago with a friend of mine. And with COVID and everything, she was released from her company, and she took the reins of her development. And it was so funny because the previous employer continued to spy on her LinkedIn page and her Facebook page, trying to figure out what she was up to. And it was just so hilarious because I was a part of this particular group that had over 165,000. And this employee, previous employee, had began to build a following for herself. She had gained some credentials. She'd done a lot of things, and at the end of the day, come to find out, that previous employer just ended up leaving the group. And it was just like, oh my gosh, she's doing better than she was when we were here. And honestly, that's what you want. You want, when you leave an employer, you truly want them to know that this is not my last stop and this is not the last rodeo. And I say rodeo because I'm from Texas. So.
Perfect, Tony. Let me bring another comment from Gospel. So good to have you here, Gospel. I once worked in an organization where everyone in the depth worked within the organization for years. Now I was brought in new. Okay, I think I may. Their practice was appalling. I shared my thoughts, but they told me that's how they did things. I wasn't treated well as the new person with new thoughts, process, and practice. Well, the gatekeepers.
Yes, those are the gatekeepers, and that's so unfortunate. And I hate to say this, but just in the environment that we're currently in now, the organizations that are saying that's just the way it is and that's the way that we've always done it are the organizations that won't be around in a year from now, because of the lack of thought and the lack of diversity, the lack of welcoming new people. So if we did it this way 20 years ago, what makes you think we should still be doing it or being able to navigate during COVID times, during this, when now we're attracting all kinds of generations? We have the Gen X, the Gen Y, we have the baby boomers, we have the millennials. So if we have people who are stuck and they've been there for a while, or as you say, the gatekeepers, that's who they are. They're the gatekeepers. They're friends with the CEO of the company, right? And so they can never do no wrong in their eyes. So what the best thing that you can do, one, is of course continue to do your best to shine, continue to show your ideas, right? And with that, begin to build you a plan, whether, and I'm going to say more so outside of the company. Go ahead and get what skills you can inside of that particular company for whatever your next mission is going to be. And I guarantee you, as like the story I told earlier, then they're going to realize, wow, we lost a good one. Because guess what? What's going to happen is with everything once COVID, and I'm not going to say COVID is gone, but what's going to happen is companies are going to have to restructure and relook at how they're spending their money. And let's just be honest, the older employees cost the company the most money based on time off work, insurance, all of these different things. And so the companies that has all of these tenure employees that are dedicated, they're going to find that their payroll can no longer support that. And they're going to wish that they have welcomed your diversity of thought and ideas, because by then you're going to be on to the company who welcomed you in with open arms. So.
Absolutely. Well, we have this comment from Kivianti. I will leave it here in standby because we will talk about, he's asking for book recommendations. Let me bring this from Gospel. They hired new people and they voiced out my similar concerns. I had to leave because the environment was too mean. And she continues, I later heard that they got retreated using the same practice I was sharing with them.
And here's the thing, that's we spoke on that earlier, about companies taking your ideas, and it will happen. And I'll tell you, one again, it happened to me. And one of the things I did, as petty as it might sound, I started trademarking my ideas before I would give them to my supervisor, and I would let them know it was trademarked. Right? You can go to LegalZoom, $25, and get it trademarked, and that's just how bad it gotten. Right? Because we're not doing that. And a year later down the line, you're finding out you have this whole program that you created from scratch that the organization has rolled out across the country.
I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, so those types of things, and I'm glad that you were able to get out. It's just unfortunate that it had become so hostile that you had to go. But I think for your emotional and mental state, leaving was the best thing. But just take pride and know that you know what you know, and so that you can take those ideas and implement them in an environment that welcomes you and your ideas.
Absolutely, it's truly important because I also know something, and because I always I had this situation too. I share with my bosses some ideas, and they okay, yeah, right, and the very next day, the very next week, someone say, oh look, they are thinking about doing this and this, and I say, really? Like they had the idea. But I think okay, it's kind of bad not giving credits and everything. But the question is, Tony, sometimes we have our ideas because we have the background who allowed us to brought these ideas to understand how things will get connected and how to put in practice. But most of the time, this kind of people just got the output without the whole process behind. So I think this lack will make this fall because most of the time they just have the idea without knowing why and how to do it.
Right.
And maybe it won't work as they thought it works.
And I can tell you, you're 1000% true, because a couple of the ideas that I brought to the table, that was implemented, once I exited the company, then the whole program fell apart. So,
Yeah.
so it's amazing how it worked for almost 3 years. years while I was still there, and the minute I left, it just completely crumbled. And not that I wish that on anyone, but it was just that while I was there, I was still as a consultant for the program on because it was a living document of what was happening within the company. So it was just unfortunate that they didn't spend enough time behind the scenes, which I would have gladly showed them exactly how I was forming things. But for them, hey, sorry it happened that way, but maybe there's a lesson in there to be learned for all of us, and give credit where credit is due. That's the biggest one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we there's this. I don't know if you have this situation also in America. Maybe here I like to call it the mediocrity, mediocrity stare.
Mediocrity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stare. How does it work? Okay, I'm the boss. I want to hire someone to be a manager, for instance.
Mhm.
I won't hire someone who is smarter than me because he will pass me. Okay, he will trick me or he will cheat me and he will do mean things with me and he will take the company. So
Mhm.
I will hire someone I think it's less smarter than me, and
Mhm.
then it's the manager. Okay, and he needs to buy kind of a chief to work under him, and
Yeah.
he does the same. He has the same thought. Let me hire someone he's less smarter than me, and then he pushes. So, at the end of the stair, where most of the times are people who are selling, who are dealing with customers, who are producing, the dumb people. Okay, how can this work?
It doesn't, and that's where you're finding these organizations now. That's why you're seeing so many mergers, right, and acquisitions, because it doesn't work. People are intimidated by people who they perceive to be more educated than them, to be more knowledgeable than them, to have more of an executive presence than them, to be able to produce more than them. So they settle, or they try to keep this hierarchy and keep you at a certain level. And that's where you, as an individual with your self development, needs to learn how, as we call it, move a different way. So you have to maneuver through the minutia in order to get to where you need to be. And let's just be honest. The business world is very political. Make no mistake, it is very political. So you're going to have to learn how to play the politics to get where you want to get. Now, the one thing I want to say about that, playing the politics, one thing is, for me personally, I will never sacrifice my ethics or my values for a title or a position. But when I say the politics, you find out, okay, this is what's going to take me to get here. So I'm still going to produce there. But once I get to this point, this is what my expectations are. And you have talked with your supervisor. In addition, then look into your company's hiring practices. So why is this particular manager responsible for hiring this manager? Why can't HR do this? Why can't it be behavioral? Why can't we have a third party to do this? So it's just all about, again, how you move within the organization and what you know that you bring. Also, now that could definitely, and we won't go too far into that, but if you are, and you specifically know that you are the most qualified candidate for that position, that can definitely lead into some legal issues for both the manager and the company. And that's something that you don't want, that you, because you're hiring your cousin to come and take this position, who has an associate, but you have this person with 15 years of experience that has been doing more than that. So It's just as prevalent here in America, and again, that's why you're finding companies that are struggling. We call it the war for talent, because guess what? All of their they're upset. They're tired of being passed over for promotions or positions that they honestly deserve. So they're disengaged, or they're actively disengaged. And with that, they're looking for another job, right? So, and they're going to find right now, they're going to find a job that is going to value what they bring. And it's going to, once America opens back, or however we want to look at it, it is going to be, again, the war on talent, because people are going to be moving around like crazy, the ones that did something with this downtime.
Absolutely. Ty says, for sure, they know it will expose their inability to produce. And Kivianti has another question. How do you know when you need to leave an organization who isn't helping you grow and develop? Nice question.
That's a good one. When it's time to go. And I used to always say, when you're no longer growing, then you should start going, right? So you don't just leave, right? You have to have a backup plan. But when you wake up and it's not like, oh, I got to go to work, because we all do that sometimes. But when it's an everyday thing and you're like, I don't feel like this today, it's not like day one for you anymore. You're not yourself when you're there. You just know it's an internal feeling. And when you get to that point, but here's the key to that: you have to already begin to either build your promotion plan or your exit plan. So when you finally get to that point, you already know exactly what it is that you're going to do, and you continue to politic and just move a different way until you are set and able to get out of that situation. But I can tell you, my last career, I knew when it was time to go. And I planned it 2 years out, and I actually left on the day that I said I was going to leave. So I left on the 15th of July, and that was the day 2 years prior that I said I was going to leave. So you just know. I guess that's the only way to say it. You just truly know. You walk in, your stomach begins to churn, your heart feels heavy, and you're
Yeah,
just like, yeah. So, and it happens to us all. So trust me. So best thing to do is not get stuck. Don't let them promise you this if you stay this long. Don't let them dangle the carrot. Begin to show what you produce, but also begin to produce your, I don't want to call it the side hustle, go to producing whatever plan that you have on the side to be able to maneuver. So when you're done, you're done.
absolutely right. And there's, I think it's important, and you mentioned before, and I want to bring it back to conversation, which is personal branding, because sometimes I think we may be tempted to forget about working on our personal brand because we are the manager, the C-level on a company, and we forget absolutely to keep working our personal brand because, okay, I'm here, I don't need to work more in this. But if at the end of the week your company goes away, because sometimes you get stuck to the position, and the position doesn't follow us if we leave the company.
This is true. And this is where I say you want to be in a position to where you walk in the room and you don't have to introduce yourself. So you want to, let's say that your C-suite comes down to your department, and they're able to say, hey Tony, hey, I've heard so many great things about you. And you can tell when that's the conversation was just had when before they walked into your office or your department, or if that's a conversation that has been had over multiple months on who's producing who. So it's kind of that emotional intelligence that helps you to gather that. But you should always be building your personal brand. So from your email signature to your social media account, because social media is the easiest way to get your personal brand out there now. And make sure that you have a niche on what it is that you do. And always just be a boss. Be a boss about whatever it is that you're going to do. There's nothing wrong with showing your confidence and who you are. But if you become, let's say, SGI Services and no longer Tony, you get lost in the shuffle. And as Marco said, and if your company goes away, your identity goes away because you've created the identity of SGI Services and not Tony Alexander. So you have to always make sure you are perfect your personal brand on a daily basis. How is it that you get work done? What's the difference between you and your colleague? It can be the way that you dress. It can be the way that you have an executive presence. It can be the way that you facilitate. It can be the way that you engage your employees. It can be all kinds of things, but just make sure it's unique to you. And so when things do happen, then they know, okay, Tony's going to be okay because he's not SGI Services. He's Tony. So
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. I think it's truly important to keep working on this, because things happen and you may fall off the horse, and then you get on the floor looking around like a lost child, and nothing is happening. So I think it's important to think about it and to keep working. Well, people, we are almost reaching the end. So if you have final questions, please leave it there so we can close the conversation with Tony. Soon, Tony will get back. So stay tuned, because in 2 weeks, Tony will get back. Okay. So
okay.
if you, meanwhile, you have some questions and everything, please let's there, and we can talk about it in the future. So Tony, tell us, if I reach you out and ask you, Tony, if I want to be a leader, a great leader, which advices will you give me?
Advices that I would give you would be, one is to invest in yourself. And what I mean by that is to read books. I'm an avid reader, and I get a lot of tips from a lot of different books. And one of my favorite books I have is actually called Leading is Still the Toughest Job in the World. And it's phenomenal. It has everything in there about leadership and the misnomers of leadership, to what people think it is, not knowing the difference between being a boss or a manager, or those things. The other thing, the advice I would give you is that, remember, so being a leader is about being a servant as well. So you're a servant first, but you're going to always be a servant as a leader. But in addition to that, know that in some cases and instances, you're going to have to take on a separate role. You might have to be a follower during this particular project. So stay humble. Be willing to humble yourself in different situations for that. The other thing would be is work on your personal brand and make sure that your brand is authentic and that you operate on integrity and values, because people will not follow people they cannot trust.
Absolutely. Really, really good. So, Tony, we reached the almost the end. Now it's time to the suggestions of the guest suggestions. I have now a video to put it. Let me see if it works.
Okay, Mark.
I think it worked. Well, Tony, as we talked before, now it's the time that I ask the guests to bring some suggestions. I think one of them you already made, but you can talk, you can mention more books because Kivianti asked about leadership books. So if you want to bring some more titles, it's up to you. Okay. So books, I usually ask about one book, but today because it's my show.
You do what you want.
Absolutely. Books, a shout out to a professional that you think it could be interesting for our audience to follow. A habit, healthy and legal. A tool, a
Okay.
TV series, and a movie.
And I'm moving. Okay. So let's start with the book. The other book that I'm going to recommend is the disciplines of the disciplines of execution. So this is by John Cotter, and it teaches you why it's important to be disciplined in life, and it also relates to business as well. The movie that I give you, and people are probably gonna find it weird, but it's Erin Brockovich. So it's definitely about her being a lawyer and having to learn the different minutiae of being a female attorney and fighting over a large town, and having to realize that even though she had gone to law school, she had to humble herself to be able to find to be able to win this case, and it was about becoming a servant leader to the people of the town. So that one would be good for me. As far as a TV series, I have to be honest, I don't get to watch a lot of TV. So that one's going to be a little hard. I have to bring that one back to you, Marco.
Okay.
Because some of the series that I watch, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to help. That's just for fun. Uh,
MacGyver.
yeah, so yeah, it's like Hulu or Netflix or something. A tool to use, and I live by this, a calendar. A calendar. You have to use a calendar. And in order to use a calendar, you have to be disciplined. If you don't know how to be disciplined, you should read the executions of discipline, because a calendar will keep you organized and keep you structured and be intentional in how you live with purpose. You can't be impulsive and expect success to happen to you overnight. So I live by my calendar. Like I don't know what I would do without it. And if you're not comfortable with using, the calendars on your phone, get one of the big ones that they sell, at wherever, and use it and write down on it. But it's not enough to just write things down. You have to use it, and you have to use it every single day. My calendar changes 5 to 6 times a day, literally. Something will pop up, but I have the alerts, and guess what? I'm there. I can't tell you how many meetings or calls or webinars I have, but if it wasn't for my calendar, I probably wouldn't even have a job, and I'm my own boss. So, so that's interesting. So, did
Perfect.
I miss one, Marco?
Yeah, two. A professional shout out and
Okay.
a habit.
Professional shout out, I would say author Tony Carter, and she is the Chief Inclusion Officer and Strategist at Idaho National Laboratory. And she wrote a book called When Trouble Finds You. And it talks about how she grew up and changed the narrative of her life to become an advocate for diversity and inclusion. But in addition, her book actually comes with a workbook that teaches you the different things on life and structure, and the things that you should be asking yourself at an early age that she wished that someone had poured into her about. But yeah, author Tony Carter, When Trouble Finds You, is definitely the one. A habit that I find very useful is meditation. So I meditate daily, about 9:30. It pops up on my calendar. Alexa reminds me to meditate. But I also follow Light Watkins, and he's on Facebook. He is phenomenal in doing online meditation classes for free. So a good habit is to just clear your mind. That would definitely and help ease you into the next day. In addition, I'm going to throw one last thing out there, but on my LinkedIn profile or on my LinkedIn as well as Facebook, normally every Monday I will post a chart on how to start your day. Do not start your day with your phone. Do not. Do not start your day looking through your calendar. Do not start with some peace time, maybe some devotion, whatever works for you. But if you wake right up to your phone, then you're glued to it all day. So definitely look for me on my Facebook page, and I'll drop that chart that I drop in every Monday, the 10 steps that I take to start my day every single day,
I,
unless I'm
I,
sleeping in.
I, I saw it. I saw it. Thank you. Well, you mentioned about LinkedIn and Facebook. How can people find you on internet, Tony?
Okay, so on LinkedIn, Tony Alexander should pop up. I believe it or not, it's not many of us there. Not Anthony, just Tony. On Twitter, I'm Agent for Change. So I'm a change agent. That's what I like to do. On Instagram, I'm actually a measured man because my whole life has been measured. So we know what Dr. King says about the measure of a man. So a lot of people don't get that, but I wait until they ask me about it. And on Facebook, I'm SGI Services. So type in SGI Services, bringing humanity back into the workforce, as well as all things business and life. So you can find me on those different outlets.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who were commenting and participating in this conversation, who made it so interesting, so more insightful for all of us. Thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure to have you here. We will see again in 2 weeks
All right. I'm looking
with
forward
this
to it.
amazing show. Please stay tuned because it will be an amazing show. So if you are watching now the replay, or if you just popped up right now, you can rewind and see the whole video, which worth a lot. You should to watch it. If you know someone who may like this video, please share with them or just tag them on comments so they can see this, because it will be very helpful. Don't forget to follow also Tony to see what he's posting, and next Monday he will share the chart again so you can be inspired which is good. Okay, so if you're not following me already, please do it right now. Send me a connection request so we can stay tuned. Okay, so wish you a good day. If you are going weekend, have a nice weekend. We will see really soon, so take care and bye bye.